Hey everybody, we are teaching Tilt Brush, and this particular teaching Tilt Brush is all about a new feature called Camera Paths. We've seen how you can take screenshots and videos using your hand as a camera. This time, they have recently added this new tool called Camera Paths. Now, Camera Paths will only show up for the advanced tools. So if your settings are still to the basics, you'll need to go to the advanced tools. And on our main tools panel, not the brushes panel, but the tools panel, we've got this bottom corner, Camera Paths. They realize that not everybody has a steady hand when they want to take these videos. So the camera path lets you establish a smooth path for your camera to take videos. In a lot more control, you don't have to worry about wobbly hands. Especially for people who don't have a lot of good control, this lets them set up very smooth camera motions. Not only does it move the camera, but it has camera speed, zoom, that type of thing. So this time we're going to take a quick look at how these camera paths, you can create them and how they save your video. So here I am in my lovely landscape. I've got a landscape on a pedestal, and I want to have a camera that swirls around it and maybe zooms in on some of the more interesting points. So I'm going to use a camera path to set this up. Now when I create this, I'm going to need a starting point and an ending point. If you want your camera to do a loop, you can put those points in the same place. Or you could start on one side and have it finish on the other side. But it does have a distinct beginning point and ending point. So when I click this for the first time, I've now got a button to add a new path. I'm going to put this right up here so you guys can always see what's on this panel, because it's going to change as we do this. The moment you click that, your controller will be setting points on a path. People who've used programs like Photoshop or Corel Photo Paint, where you create curves, this is a very similar tool. So as I create a path, it's going to be connecting several dots, like a connect the dots. So here we go. Starting point over here, just a single pull of the trigger. As I hold the trigger down, I have these green lines. These are going to control the curve as I come out. Since I want a nice smooth curve going around, I'm going to get a couple inches of my green controller here. And now there's a curve connecting my controller to the starting point. I'm now going to curve over here and bend this around. Now you can see how moving these control points bends the curve. I'm going to even move it closer to the camera so you can see how moving these control points is affecting the shape of the curve. So I'm going to get in a nice swooping around here. Next dot. You can see how it's connecting back to this one. Swoop around here. Oops. Get it over here. Whoops. There we go. So they're still connected. Bring my curve around this side. Bring my curve around like this. Let's get so you can see what I'm doing here. So you can see I still have the curve. If your curve disappears, without doing anything else, just go back and touch the last point. That'll reestablish your curve. Bring it around over to here. Wobble, wobble. Now I'm going to make sure I come back and touch the starting point. It'll even light up when you get close. If you do connect it back to the starting point, it will make a complete loop. If I don't connect, and that's the end of it, you can see how I have a starting point, and it will swing around back to this point. Since I'm still in the drawing points mode, you can see how it lights up as I get close to these, so I can continue that all the way through. With your controller, if you're lighting up a point, you can also squeeze to grip. to move that point. So let me get this back on screen a little bit. So right now my points aren't connecting, so I'm going to go over here, squeeze, and bring it so they connect. Now it is one continuous loop. I can even get over the green marker, squeeze the grip, not the trigger, the grip. So now I can adjust this curve, smooth it out or sharpen it up. So now you can see this path makes a single smooth curve around it. Once you've got a path going, it's going to add this panel right here. This rectangle panel is the camera view. If you can see what's in it, it should be facing the way you want it. If you grip that and slide it around, it's always going to stay stuck to the path. So I can move it to see how that camera moves all the way around this path. If you'll notice on your controller, this panel here is showing you what the camera is viewing. So as I move the camera over here, we can see the landscape as the camera sees it moving past. So as this moves past, you can see the view changing over here. I've got the points where I want them. I've got the curves the way I want them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the path tool. So in my camera mode, this part is what the camera is currently seeing. These controls here let you add and remove these control points that control your curve. So if I wanted to add or remove these guys, that one's off screen for you. There we go, that one. You can see it light up. So you can make your curve more detailed or smooth out places where you've got too many of those points. Add points, remove points, delete points. The other three buttons let you control the camera itself. You'll notice by default, it's always pointing in the same direction. So as I move over here, I'm not looking at the landscape anymore. These three buttons, one adds directions. Anywhere along your path, you can set the direction of the camera. So really, in my case, I want 4 direction points. So I can make sure it's always pointing at the landscape itself. So I'm going to choose my add direction. And now my controller has a little camera. That little cage, you can see it's trying to show you the direction the camera is pointing. So I'm going to go over the path line, point at my landscape, click, and it adds a camera marker. See if you can see it right here in blue, to indicate which direction the camera should be pointing at that time. And as he slides past, you can see he is now facing that direction. Since this is my only camera point, the camera is always facing that direction. So I can now say, at this point he's facing that way. At this point, he should be facing that way. Camera marker. At this point, he should be facing this way. Now you can angle up and down, left and right at any point. So I'm going to make sure it's pointing down a little bit at the landscape. Finally, over on this side, pointing back at this way. In fact, I want to sort of angle it up so he's looking at the bird. There we go. When you pull the trigger, it will add a camera view so you can make sure it's pointing in the direction you need it to point. In that case, I don't need that one, so I'm going to thumb trigger, let you remove my points. Direction point, delete that point. Oops, not the whole point. There we go. Just the camera. So now as my camera moves around, starting here, whoops, I have it facing the bird. That's not really the way I want it to turn. So let's grab you and actually angle you like that. So as you come around, we get the bird, but then we pull back. Okay. So now we can see, let's get this where you can see it a little better. As the camera moves around, it's changing its facing to always be pointing at the screen. I see what happens. This one is upside down. So we're going to grab him and rotate him right side up. So now the camera shouldn't flip over as it passes through. But this one is. So let's grab you. Right side up, butt pointing down. Let's lower him so that's easier to deal with. There we go. Now we can see, okay, so now I'll angle you down a little bit. Okay. So you can really take time to refine the angles, refine the directions, so that the entire video stays focused in the direction you want it to. And these paths can go through things, around things, as much as you like. So we have both the path itself and the anchor points that determine the curves, and we've got the ability to add a direction for the camera so you always can control which way it's facing. The center of those bottom buttons is camera speed. If I actually just tap on this, you can see how it now plays the actual action at actual speed, and base speed is actually fairly slow. That can be nice to see a lot of detail. We do have a way of controlling that speed as well. I'm going to let it go all the way back to the starting point, which is this one over here. Okay, and then click on it again to stop. And you can always drag this around to get it from any perspective. So the speed tool, it adds marker to the path just like the other ones do. And you can see it's a little arrow. Now when you add a speed tool, the short arrow is the slowest speed. When I click the trigger to add that point, if I use the grip, I can pull that marker around, and then the trigger, whoops, I didn't want to add another one. The squeeze when you've got the top highlighted lets you pull it. The higher you pull that arrow, the faster the speed is. So now that I've really stretched that up, my speed number is 26. If I play it, now it's whipping around at a very high speed. Very high speed. I'm going to slow that down. Grip, slow it down. Because you have this marker, you can have it change speed. So I'm going to have it at this speed here, but I'm going to have it go faster up here. Let me get a grip on the top. There we go. Faster. But then over here, it's going to slow way down. And then go back up to normal speed over here. Normal speed, we'll say, is about 5.2, 7.5. We'll bring this one up to 7 as well. So now you can see, I'm going to bring this close so you can see the brown arrows are the speed and the blue cameras are your direction. So now when I play, you can see it changes speed. It gets fast over here, slows down over here. Maybe it's going a little too slow. Yeah, it's going a little too slow. So we're going to grab the speed marker and speed it up a little. Fast around, slow. Yeah, let's get slower, a little slower than that. Little slower than that. And then speeds up again. Okay. So the speed markers, how fast should the camera be moving? If you have more than one, it will gradually speed up and slow down as it changes. It won't be a snap speed. It will use that entire distance to speed up or slow down. At any point, you can use your squeeze to change those numbers, or use your squeeze to move where it happens on the path. You can always add more markers, or you can delete markers as well. The final one is camera zoom. So it's at the normal length, normal camera field of view throughout the entire passage. But if you want the camera to zoom in its focus, that's another thing we can control. If you only do one, then your whole video is at that level. So in my case, I only wanted to really zoom in while it's right here. I wanted to zoom in on the mountainside. So I'm going to add a zoom marker. Now the lower the stalk, the closer it zooms in. So at the shortest, it's zoomed in the tightest, closest. If I pull it up, then the camera zooms back, zooms out. So I'm going to have it nice and zoomed in through here, but then have it pulled out before and after. So now it should zoom in tight through here, but be more fairly pulled out for the rest of it. I'm going to get to my starting point, whoops, right about here, and let's see how this looks on screen. Turn you off. Let's make it so I can see the screen. There we go. So you can see the change in speed and change in zoom as the camera moves around its track. This is a camera path using camera direction, camera speed, and camera zoom markers. Now we've got that path set so we can record this whole action as a video. Stop. Now that I've got it prepared, now that I've tested it so it's the way I think I want it, the very top corner here, this circle, this full circle, when I click it, it's going to do a full pass, starting at that starting point. The camera is red, indicating it is recording right now. It does one full cycle through the path and then saves that on your computer. If you're on the Quest, it'll save it on internal storage. So make sure you have room. This is a video file. If you're on a PC, a Windows computer, if you go into My Documents, there's a folder called Tilt Brush. In there is a folder called Videos, and that's where it's saving it. So if I go onto my computer and I go into Documents, Documents, Tilt Brush, /videos. Videos. This is where it's going to save it. It's also going to use the base name of the name of your picture. So if your picture is still called Untitled 2, then chances are your video will be called Untitled 2. But it will save it in here so that you can find it and distribute it, upload it to YouTube or anything you like. Anytime you want, this path is now saved with your sketch. So if you do save this, it should save the path itself. If you don't want the path anymore, the trash can will indeed delete the path itself. Now, if you want to go back to work and you don't want to get rid of the path, but you'll notice the path is sort of in the way here, the eyeball will hide the path but not delete it. You can then reactivate it anytime you want to go back in to use it. But these paths are now part of your file, part of your document. It is possible to have more than one path. So if you wanted two different camera views of this sketch, it is okay. It can handle it. Each one will be saved as a separate video, but this is a brand new tool that was recently added to Tilt Brush to give you much more control over your videos. That's the camera path tool that's part of your controller. I hope this is helpful. I look forward to seeing what wacky videos you guys come up with. Camera paths so that you can pan through and see whatever you want on your thing. That really lets you present it nicely on YouTube or Twitch, that type of thing. Likewise, if you load somebody else's sketch and it's got a camera path, watch it a few times. See where they want you to pay attention. See what you focus on. Go ahead and send us what you do. We always like to see what our viewers have to offer. Let us know if there are any questions or any other tools you'd like us to play with. Did I spell that one right? I spelled that one right today. Okay. So thanks for joining us on Teaching Tilt Brush. We do this every week on Twitch TV/Shameless Mayhem. Plus they're archived here on YouTube.com/Shameless Mayhem. Thanks for joining. Have fun with Tilt Brush.